Hey, good morning. This is Joe from Citrus County Porch Life, bringing you a daily word from men for December 8th, Sunday, 2024. And before we begin, let's say the verse for December. Search for the Lord and for his strength, continually seek him. That's from First Chronicles 16, verse 11, the New Living Translation. And the word for today, December 8th, is safety. The Lord sees all we do. He watches over his friends day and night. His godly ones receive the answers they seek whenever they cry out to him. And that is from Psalm 34, verse 15, the TPT. I do not know what that is. Our well being is wrapped up in God more than we realize. As part of his larger family, he enjoys being involved in the intricacies of our daily lives. He is not an aloof father, but is very present with us in our day to day activities. His invitation to us is to welcome him in and recognize the personal nature of his relationship with us. He sees all we do as he watches over us. If you have a family, you realize the importance of safety. Danger lurks everywhere, especially for those in the family who are more vulnerable. To God, we are the vulnerable ones, all of us. He sees our trouble better than we do, and he wants to provide a place of safety for us to be able to rest in him. He is all about building a closer relationship with us. And the question is, how can you find a place of safety with God where you have peace being with him? And before we begin that, I just want to say that I was watching something popped up on YouTube because I have a lot of spiritual based, podcasts in my queue. And a guy came on and he's saying, nowhere in the Bible does it say that God knows all things. Now, I know that to be untrue because I've read the Bible. He's supposedly a Bible scholar. But right here, it says, talk about omniscient. He said God is not omniscient. He sees all we do as he watches over us. So he sees all we do, every human being on earth. He's not saying a select group, everyone. He sees everything that goes on. And to me, that's pretty omniscient. Uh, so here we go. How can we find a place of safety with God where you have peace being with him? Well, my first answer was visit often so I am not a stranger and feel comfortable in his presence. And for me, that's very true because it was a long period of time where I never sought out his presence. It's not that I didn't believe in him, believe that he was right, believe that he had the path, that I just did not seek out his presence. And then when you do, it feels very uncomfortable at first. At least it did to me. And, kind of like your parents want you to visit them and you're not that far away, but you don't ever goes to see them. Uh, and they feel hurt, and then when you get there, you don't know what to say. How can you explain your absence? And that's exactly how I felt in the beginning. But now, at least twice a day, I stop and listen to God and tell him my faults, how I hope to improve, and that's through the AA program. So very frequent visits gets you out of the stranger mode and into the more intimate friend mode. I learned very early on that there's much to be learned from the phrase, let go, let God. You don't have to be worried about everything in the world, everybody's relationships with everybody else. You're not in control. He is. So let go, let God. I like to ponder all the ways that God has helped me. There wasn't, I was a project kid. I was like one of the throwaway poor white people that, well, I didn't live in a trailer. I do now, but I got the money. Back then, I didn't have the money and I didn't live in a trailer. And, well, not a trailer, a manufactured home. But I lived in the projects. A lot of stereotyping going on around there. But God did great things for me. Uh, we had a very, very poor life, but I had a two-parent household. My father did all that he could possibly do to keep us fed and housed, and it was very difficult for him. He was a man even without a high school education, and there were limited opportunities in Providence. And but he did. He worked his whole life. He worked his whole life. And for me, the greatest gift he gave me was a gift of reading. He liked to read. I liked to sit with him when he read. And I thank God for that because it's made all the difference in my life. I don't think you'll ever be alone if you like to read. There's always something sitting around. I remember as a kid when I first learned how to read, reading the cereal boxes. For number 4, I put make him a friend. So what's a friend? A friend is someone. Well, I think of my best high school friends. These were guys that were on the swimming team with me that I lived not far from. We hung around all the time. We're like more like brothers. Uh, and for those that are still alive today, my best friend Bob died a couple of years ago from cancer. But many of the other guys that I swam with are still alive today, and I like to be around them. We have a good time and make God like that. Don't be a stranger. That's the message I get out. And 5, I put make being like him with him like just going out and having a coffee with a friend. I can remember one of my friends called me up and said, I'm going crazy. I'm going nuts. Let's go out for a coffee because we both gave up drinking. So I met him at a Dunkin' Donuts. We just talked and talked and talked. He talked about work and how it was bothering him and it was affecting his family relationships. And I didn't say much other than listen. He had to figure it out in his head. I can't give advice on that. And yeah, and then we made it kind of like a regular thing, a Friday morning coffee, and it was nice. It was nice to have that time with another human being, seeing that we're not, not that much different, and we've got to remember that God has a human nature. He is God, but He assumed a human nature to come down and save us. So He knows how we feel. He knows how we feel comfortable around him. We all want to have a fear of God, but not that's kind of misnamed, not a fear, healthy respect of God. It's like I had an uncle who was mostly Indian, American Indian, and this is when I was a little kid. My cousins told me he could call spirits, and they went out in fields at night. These are tall tales, but I really believed it. So I was in awe when I went to see him, and I thought maybe I'd get to see one of those things. It was that magical age where you can't really tell falsehood from the truth, and it never happened. But I was always in awe of him. He was my Uncle Morris. So, oh, we're running over almost 11 minutes. See, I get going, and so I hope everyone has a safe Sunday, and we will talk to you tomorrow. God bless.